Okay, we're recording.
All right. Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting of the Joint Capital Planning Committee to order at 4:03 on Wednesday, April 2nd. It is Wednesday, yes. Yes. I'm Sarah Marshall. I'm the vice chair of the committee. Our chair, town councilor Kathy Shane, is away. So I'll run this meeting and she'll be back for our next meeting a week from Friday on the 11th. So because we're meeting virtually, I'll take roll call, make sure everybody can hear and be heard. Bob Hegner.
Present.
Lee Edwards.
Present.
Nat Larson.
I'm here.
Bridget Hines.
Present.
Hala Lord.
Present.
Great. And there may be some members of the public. This meeting is being recorded, and that recording will be uploaded hopefully tomorrow. So before we dive in, who is taking minutes for today's meeting? Anybody?
Kathy.
Oh dear. Okay, that's fine. I will do them if we're absolutely sure this is being recorded, because my ability to take notes will be not the best while I'm trying to run it. So, okay, and Melissa.
Sarah,
Yeah.
since you are chairing, I took minutes last time, so I guess I'm able to do it again.
You're my hero. Yesterday it was Cory
Gold
Booker,
star.
but today it's you. Yes. And by the way, we're still missing, I think, one set of minutes. So whoever hasn't submitted them, Bridget.
That's
Yeah.
me. I'm halfway done.
Okay, wonderful. And Melissa, if you can let Nat and me know when that recording is uploaded, just so he
Yep.
can review it, and I may need to as I work on the report. Okay, just run through the agenda. We're going to, well, the goals for today, what I think our goals are to come to agreement about our recommendations, capital spending recommendations for the FY26 year, including resident requests, or to come to some decision about what we want to do with those. We may also have a look at the out years and think about, can we bring it to balance? So what can we do at this point, if anything, to try to set us up for success in the following years? And then thirdly, we talked about giving the town manager some recommendations for additional capital spending next fall, perhaps, should there be another free cash surplus certified and that opportunity arises again. So we can have that discussion. I assume that if there is such a surplus, the town manager will let department heads know, and they, at least I certainly hope they do, hope he does, so that the departments, including the schools, which were, I think, a little behind the 8 ball this year, can submit any requests. And after we do all that, we'll take public comment if there is any public comment. All right, sound good? Okay, so Melissa, is there anything new about, there's no new version of this?
So I did just get about 5 minutes before the meeting, something from, I haven't put it in the packet yet because I was barely on time. We did hear back today about the grant that the IT department was trying to receive for the disaster recovery equipment. And unfortunately, they did not get any part of that grant this year. They are looking to apply again next year. But Sean had asked me to convey to the committee that he would like to start the project this year. There are some things that need to be done now. Well, not this year, in this fiscal year. And so he would like to request or modify his request down to $45,000, putting the balance of that $45,000 in next year and reapply for the grant and hope that the grant covers the second phase of it. But he's asking for that. And I did change that on the committee's spreadsheet, which I'm happy to share. I was trying to kind of lay out I was trying to recreate the funding model and the shortage. So maybe I'll hide that while I share this because it doesn't work right now.
Hey,
but,
Melissa,
yep.
I noticed that some of the figures had changed from the previous draft. So could you go through what changes you've made?
So I made those changes in committee, and they're highlighted in blue, but we could certainly go through what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hide the stuff that's wrong and not give myself that kind of grief for
Yeah, Bob, we'll run through all the requests and just because we tossed around some ideas, but I need to know if we have buy-in for, yeah, okay, so we will go over all the changes.
Okay, so I'm gonna share this screen, so share. So I highlighted, can you see, do I have the right screen up? I just want to make sure.
Yes,
Okay.
can you make it larger though?
Can I make it larger? Sure.
Or hide all the
out rows here. Well, let's just do this. Okay, so that might be too large. Okay.
No, that's fine.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so facilities I had highlighted because I have a note further out that we were in the discussion of that. So I just kind of left it because that was a discussion item. I highlighted in blue this disaster recovery because we were talking about eliminating it, hoping that the grant would come through. I changed this as I was talking to Sean today to sort of make this adjustment and then see how the committee felt about that, seeing that we got that information that you guys had spoke about last time.
Wait, why is the one above in blue? Why is technology?
So the blue, the million?
No, below the 219,000.
So the blue was that I had highlighted changes to the amounts because the amounts had been upgraded over previous years. So any kind of change in year or the blue font color is me noting a change from prior year amounts or timing of the schedule.
Okay,
if it's highlighted,
the number is not different
than previous
this year's previous iteration.
Right.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
And the highlighted in red were new submissions this year that I had highlighted before when we had done this exercise. And then these blue highlighted squares we had talked about them in previous meetings. So so this 350 I have highlighted because we had talked about whether or not that was the appropriate number for the school department. So I just highlighted in blue. We hadn't made any changes to it yet. And then I think there's it's not highlighted, but I should probably highlight here.
Bangs was removed. Yeah.
Bangs was removed.
You also you moved the Southeast Street design work
intersection, yeah,
for a year, and then you took out the 6 million, right?
Yeah, that was a request not discussed in the meeting, but it was Kathy had sent those changes to me, and so that's when I started this new spreadsheet that was just based on discussions that the committee was making separate from what had been submitted, so that I could have, so that I have the history of what was originally submitted versus now. Right. There is one other change here that we made in committee that I didn't highlight in blue, and that was around, it was DPW for the design of that 6 million.
Right.
He had decreased it to 260.
60, right. And then you moved, I see it's been moved to FY27.
Yeah. So I think that again, that was a suggestion that Kathy had suggested. So, and I had originally just sent this to her, you know, if she wanted to sort of play around with it. But then we started using it in the meeting. So I can put that back as 260, but that was originally, I believe, 500.
Yes, it was 500 originally.
Yeah.
I
Can
don't
you
know that
scroll
the,
up? Excuse
yeah,
me,
I just
Bob.
don't know whether the council has made a decision on whether they want to do a study this year or not. So we may have to have some language around that.
Well, I
Sorry.
mean, certainly in your recommendations, you can put it in whatever, like, that's kind of why I did it this way so that I can move stuff around and then, you know, for your report, like what this committee suggests, you know.
Right.
I assume, well, I don't know, that the town manager takes this all under advisement, but he can put in an additional, put in a project that he thinks is more urgent.
Well, he can, like if you've eliminated a project, and it was part of the original submission, he can bring it back. So this is your document with your recommendations.
Right.
Yeah.
But like the design work for the Southeast Street.
Right. You might
put
push
that
it back a year. He might push it forward based on different information or.
All right, Bridget.
Yeah, I just, while I was going around online, I saw that the police department had previously done some work on this southeast intersection, and I just wondered how that was different than what we were looking at, if that's something you know, Melissa, or if it's something you could
I'm
ask.
sorry, I don't have any history on that.
Yeah.
Guilford is here because he did respond to all of the citizen requests in relation to how they could fit into what work he has planned or presented here. He may have more information about that if we want to ask him about that.
Yeah, if we're not gonna have it for this year, it's not that important, but
Uh-huh.
it was the Fort River Elementary Traffic Engineering Services thing done by CDM Smith. And
Mm.
I was just curious, like, how they were different, and are there like several steps and consultants you need in a process like that? It's possible.
Yeah, I
Well, there
think,
was a plan done.
yeah,
the
for any time
intersection.
you do a new school, usually you have to have some kind of study done.
Yeah. Can you just scroll right to the bottom first?
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
I think, whereas at the start, we were about $485,000 over. Oh, I
Mhm.
see. It doesn't link up to the first page.
Yeah.
I think we now are well below the target
Mhm.
by $1 million. Basically, we have if everything we see here is acceptable
Mhm.
to this group, we have another $502,000. Okay.
Sarah,
So-
what's the amount to get to 10%? I was,
So it's
thinking that we should do
340,000 difference.
Okay. Thanks.
Sorry, I don't follow that. I'm looking at our original, the summary table. It showed us over the available funding by 485,000.
Correct. Yes, Sarah, what I was trying to answer is, Bridget, there's been a lot of discussion at town council about whether or not we reduce from a 10.5% funding to so in order to meet that, we would have to reduce this even further. That guidance hasn't been given one way or another for us. So I'm not sure, you know.
Right.
Yeah, but it's about $340,000 difference. So if you wanted to assume that cut, then, you know, that's sort of where
we could give a recommendation as if, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so let's start right where we are. So the town councilors may have a better sense of this and whether they agree with Kathy that Bangs does not need $500,000 at this time, given the big $2.8 million it was just granted. So is it do you concur with Kathy's reasoning on this? And could you just raise your hands, because I don't see Hala, and then I can know if she... Bob? Thank you.
Yeah, I concur with that. The rationale being we're spending $2.8 million on basically stuff behind the walls, more or less, you know, wiring and HVAC. And we were told that the boiler itself was in pretty good shape. Now that doesn't mean that we don't need to do a study to replace the boiler, but I don't think it's a $500,000 study. And so I thought that the Bangs money was sort of redundant with the $1 million that we said that the facilities people had asked for. So I just think it's a double count.
Okay, okay. Lee, did you have an opinion about this?
I concur with what was just said.
Okay, I don't know if Hala's listening or wants to weigh in. Hala, do you have an opinion about this, removing this $500,000 for the Bang Center?
I am okay with that as well.
Okay, all right. So now we all get to vote. I don't even know if we really vote, but does anyone object? Put up your hand if you object. Put up your little virtual hand, because I can't see everybody. Okay. Doesn't seem like anyone objects. Okay, so with that, we've already solved our big problem. But that doesn't mean we fund projects that we don't think are worth funding. So Melissa, could you scroll up maybe to the next
Sure.
bit of blue, or maybe stop there, because there was a question. I think Nat had a question about the school's request. Now I don't even know where it is. It's not a vehicle.
Yep. So
it's-
it's the electric school bus, the 200,000.
Yeah.
So
don't
I
Go
I
ahead.
did put in the packet earlier today, so you may not have a chance to look to it. But Shannon from the school department did respond that this additional amount would reduce the $80,000 a year. If I remember it correctly, would reduce the amount requested down, and it would, over the 10-year life of the project, save like 280,000. Is that correct? I can pull up the
Yeah, that's what I
correct.
remember.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
correct.
mhm.
Yeah, and I would say, I don't know if Nat feels strongly about this one, that it's to any department's advantage to reduce its operating costs by improving its infrastructure, and certainly the schools are eager to reduce its operating costs. So, and I also think, given it's Liberation Day, right? Who knows what who knows what prices are gonna be? I'd just love to lock this down, you know? So, Nat, do you want to say anything further about this item?
I guess I would just say my calculation, the 80,000 versus 200,000 upfront and 52,000 each year, saves about $35,000 in present value. So it's not that much, but I'm not going to object that strongly. It doesn't. I think the biggest question is, as you said, it does shift from the operating to the capital. So as long as we all recognize that, you know, that's what's happening.
Yeah. Anybody else want to comment on that item?
So I would say to sort of the rationale behind that is that leases are, because they're ongoing and they're a maintenance, you know, it's a lease and service agreement, so it is part of operating. But had we purchased the buses up front, all of that cost would have been capital, right? So it's a shared, but what's bundled into this lease is also maintenance. So that's why it ends up, and so they're just trying to reduce the amount of the operating because they can't, this is the easiest and most cost-effective way for them to acquire the vehicles without actually buying them and having a debt payment, which would always sit in capital. So there's that kind of counter. So while yes, it's a shift from operating, it's because it's a lease, and anything we can pay down on the lease is usually an appropriate capital expenditure.
Right, can you scroll up?
Yeah. Bob?
Whatever the next.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just that's what I was gonna say, that we are also talking about maintenance. As I recall, the only thing we would be responsible for are changing the tires out as they get worn out. So it's, given the uncertainties, or the uncertainty of getting a new vehicle, sometimes they're lemons, sometimes they're not. I think it's wise to let the bus company take the risk of
Yeah.
the machine, and we can lock in a lease and get the charging equipment, and it's I don't see that being a problem. Even though that probably is cheaper over 10 years to buy it outright. It might be, it might not be.
Yeah, certainty is worth something, I think. Yeah, all right, so what's next if we scroll up?
So there's this, I don't think there was any questions about the light truck.
No.
The irrigation system at Cherry Hill, did we want to talk about that?
I personally don't see any reason to talk about it.
Okay,
I'm sorry, any reason to what?
talk about the irrigation system
Oh.
at Cherry Hill. Okay.
Oh, that is in there. Yeah, I guess I was looking at, that was added to the original list, right?
I don't think so.
No.
Ray did come on one of our meetings to talk about that, and I'm not sure if that was the meeting that you were not at, Sarah, because you had,
Yeah.
but there's been a failure at the Cherry Hill Golf Course, and they have an irrigation system that was hit by lightning, and they had to do some repairs there last year. And this is a system upgrade to sort of address some of the issues around. They did a fix to get them through the season, and this is a system upgrade to fix some of the programming around the irrigation system,
Right.
and protect against future lightning strikes.
Right, hopefully. Okay, continue.
So planning and conservation. I believe Dave is here if we had any more questions about this, but it wasn't brought up last time, but.
Right. Now these blue numbers under the tree planting and relamping, why are they in blue? Can you remind us? Or me?
So I think that the relamping, I feel like that might have been more, and I think that these traffic light improvement, traffic calming, and relamping used to be bundled together, and we've kind of separated them out. So it's,
Okay.
maybe Guilford can help me, but I think that in the past, and I know that we definitely did, we staggered. He had asked for 100,000, and I don't know if I can let him talk right now. He's
Okay.
raising his hand. So can I unshare
Sure.
and let him in?
Bring them in.
Yeah.
That's fine. I didn't know if we had proposed changing that number, but it's just new compared, or it's a different presentation compared to last year is what.
Mhm.
So is Guilford materializing?
Yep, he is.
Okay.
Guilford?
There he is.
Hi. So the first two, the traffic lights and the traffic calming, they used to just come out of road repair money. So those are two separate articles to designate just for those uses. And then the light relamping is just an increase. It used to be ten or $12,000. Now we're asking for 50 because the price has gone up quite a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Guilford, you mentioned in the resident requests, you mentioned some of these could be handled as part of the ongoing work. Do you need more money to do that, or can you do that within the budget you have?
Bob, do you mind if we table that for a moment? If
Okay.
Guilford doesn't mind, I would just like to make this first pass through and then turn to all the resident requests.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Ada, can you go back to sharing your screen, Melissa?
Oh, yeah.
I think the
forgot.
next one we've already discussed, which is, and we did discuss it in our meeting. It wasn't just Kathy's did it in the spreadsheet herself.
Okay.
So, but I want to ask, is anybody opposed to this change from, what was it originally? I don't know. $500,000.
Original request for 500, and Guilford had said he could.
Right.
Just the study part or the modeling part would be less.
Right.
And
So
that's-
is everybody here, and or maybe I'll put it this way. If you have an objection to this change, please put up your virtual hand. All right. I think the entire, well, that's out years. We'll get to that later. Okay, so what's next, Melissa? Moving on up, we get to 6th grade relocation.
Right.
This is highlighted because we had the sense from Shannon that she was, that was kind of skimpy. She'd be more comfortable if it were a larger amount.
Yep.
Okay. So we talked about, how about another $100,000? And I think she said, sure, that'd be great. I reached out to her by email to say, do you have, she said she'd be more comfortable with $450,000. I said, is there a number at which you are comfortable? Not just more comfortable, but comfortable. And she can't give a number yet. So I don't, she's not asking for more than 450,000 if we would like to put more money there. So this is the first instance where we're proposing adding some money. Does anybody wish to argue for or against that? This is, and I should just say, this work has to be finished by the end of next summer.
So there are two people with their hands up. I don't know if you can see them.
No, I
Sarah.
can't see them. Can you? Oh, they should have moved to the, all right, who's?
Bob's is up and someone else. I just
Okay,
saw
I'll
Bob
just
plus
open
one
this
on mine.
panel. Okay, Bob, go ahead.
So I support adding another 100,000 in this particular item, and if she needs more money, then I think this would be one that we would flag for if there's a surplus and we need to spend there's some extra money that we have, that maybe this is something we could put that money towards.
Extra money, you mean at the end of this fiscal year?
At the end,
For an
yeah, once we
appropriation.
get free cash certified and we know what the budget surplus is, if there's extra that doesn't have to go into other things, then that would be a target for me. Would be a good target to look at.
Nat?
Oh, well, I was going to say roughly the same thing. That, yeah, I mean, why not 100,000? We don't know exactly what it is, but it's going to be a large amount. So yeah, that sounds good.
All right. If anyone objects to increasing this by $100,000, please raise your hand. Nat, your hand's still up. I think you just,
Right, got it.
okay. I don't see that anyone objects. So Melissa, you can make that 450.
Well, that's a little too
Oh,
generous.
all
huh?
right, that should do it. All right, but now we have a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that is blue just because it's a difference from what was estimated last year.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, okay. Keep going up, please.
Mhm.
So some numbers seem kind of purple or a different shade of blue. Is there some significant, oh, those are the
No.
ambulance fund items maybe, or borrowing?
No, and I think that they went up. I think the cost amounts, I think that in the defibrillators or the CPR units went down and or the protective gear went down and the defibrillators and the radio system went up, and I just had a different, it was a different day and I picked the wrong blue. That, I mean.
Okay.
There,
Yeah.
I have my hand up. I don't know.
Mhm.
before we
Yes, you
scroll
do.
up.
Go ahead, Bridget.
Thanks. Well, there were two items I wanted to raise last
Okay.
week and we were out of time
Mhm.
and had to get to school committee. So the first one is about the police vehicles. I'm just thinking about two things in that. The first one is just fairness between departments. We're not replacing any other daily vehicles except ones that were totaled or that are 15 years old and with 230,000 miles. On the spreadsheet, these vehicles are listed as good. And so I feel like that. The second thing is, I just went to look because I looked at the base cost on the invoice that Melissa sent over and then all the add-ons, and it goes from like late 40s up to 90,000. And so then I priced out what other communities in our area, South Hadley, Montague, Belchertown are paying for police cars. And they're all in the $50,000 to $60,000 range. And so I just feel like that I would reconsider it on both those counts. Fairness between departments and also just needing some sort of explanation for why the overall cost. In 2020 10-year plan, the price per car was 40,000 5 years ago and estimated to be 50 this year. And I understand there's inflation, but there's not inflation that would double that amount. That just feels like a lot.
So I can answer some of that. One is that we buy hybrid vehicles in Amherst based on our, we have, sustainability policies, and I can't remember the name of one of we got like some climate leader designation, and part of that climate leader designation is that we purchase hybrid or electric vehicles whenever possible, and those vehicles are more expensive and they are more expensive to maintain. So I know that that increases the price of a vehicle in any circumstances at this given time. And so I know that that's part of the price increase, and the reason that we did two vehicles in the police department is that they were scheduled for 4. And so in order to just not have a 0 year, we cut it in half, which to them, at least 2 of their vehicles got pushed off. So that, I mean, you don't have to agree with that, but that was the rationale when we presented it this way.
But
Can
all
can
the
I
others
say-
were cut out.
With the exception of the truck that was totaled in an accident, and they're repurposing that vehicle for another purpose, but it no longer has the lift capacity to be the light truck. So that vehicle has to be replaced in order to continue to maintain our streetlights. And Guilford can talk about that more because he certainly knows more about his fleet than I do. But some of his pickup trucks were pushed off.
Can I say I don't understand the the concern about equity or inequity. I mean, look at what happens in the next couple of years. Everybody's asking for new vehicles. So, and the schools are requesting special ed vans and this, electric bus. So, I mean, they're heavily used vehicles. I'm not sure where you see an unfairness
I
in this.
would speak to the fact that these vehicles are like 3 to 4 years old. The school vehicles that are being replaced were over 10 years or 10 years old. The mileage is like 100,000 or so, for the school vehicle were 230, 215. And then just the general principal, Melissa said she asked everyone to hold off on vehicles until next year, except the ones that were totaled, or like the school said, it's illegal to drive children in those right now. So it just seems like not fair at all to just give that one department like a special privilege.
Melissa, can you comment on?
So,
Wow.
I mean, we did this based on the fact that the list of needs was exceeded the dollars that we knew we had available. The town manager said we should eliminate vehicles to whatever amount we can. And when I did the first pass with him, he was like, well, you have to do some police just because of the way that and I think that when Chief Ting was in our meeting, he did discuss that the way that those vehicles are used, that mileage affects those vehicles differently than like mine or your vehicle. I don't know. I'm not a fleet manager. I'm just repeating what I've been told. So the decision to do half was based on the town managers saying, well, we have to cut back on vehicles this year in order to do other capital projects. And this was the compromise that he asked me to present.
Okay.
And then I had a
Okay,
second
yeah.
item.
Yeah.
The second item was about the radio system. If I understand correctly, it came in at the last minute last year and it's 2 million in total. And so I was doing some looking around. You can find a whole presentation to Wellesley's town meeting about this system and how it's legally needing to be replaced. And that type of thing, but they spread it out over 2 years for 600,000. And then South Hadley replaced it this year for 800,000. And I'm just wondering, why is ours 2 million? And the final thing is that there's grants available. I see other communities getting grants for them. So that made me really want to ask more questions before funding this line.
I mean, I don't have any answers I don't know about that system well enough. I believe that was one of the things we got quotes for, but I do know that that they had spread it out over the 2 years last year when it came before the committee, and I know that they haven't even move forward on the first. My understanding is they haven't moved forward on the first half because their bids exceeded the amount they had authorized.
My concern also was just this amount of borrowing when we're looking at the same time at DPW route repair or rebuilding and all that, just to be adding that much to borrowing if we could do it cheaper. So I guess, just would love to reconsider putting 2 million just sort of on the fly towards something.
You
so
won't get
so big.
any argument from me about the borrowing. If we could get it so that we could do only cash capital this year, that would make me feel much more comfortable knowing what's coming. And it's always a better bang for your buck if you can absorb the cost up front. the long-term cost of borrowing $2 million, you know, eats up another project, unfortunately. So
As-
I don't have a good answer to that.
I could suggest, Bridget, I don't know if you looked for the recordings of the JCPC meetings last year. They're probably still on Amherst Media site because there was the police gave a presentation about this, and certainly there were lots of questions. I mean, I think it's my understanding that they have to do it, that their current system is failing and or must be replaced for other reasons. And they had to extend their areas in town that weren't adequately covered. There was no radio reception, so they have to increase the coverage by adding base stations, and the new systems operate on several bands. So there's different towns and different departments can all communicate more effectively. It was too much to do all at once, so I guess we split it in half to spread it out. But you know, the longer it sounds like it's already getting more expensive. If you want, we could ask the police chief to come back next time to explain it more.
So,
So
this
yeah.
is this is actually a police and fire project together. And so I think that they both could speak to it, both chiefs. It is, I think, under fire is
Fire.
where the request originally came from, and it is under them too, but you're correct, Bridget. It is basically a public safety wide communication system. So it does cover both departments.
yeah, and it's a legal requirement for the state of Massachusetts, so I'm not opposed to replacing it at some point at all. I'm just opposed to why the price point is so much more than other communities, why we haven't applied for grants, and if there's borrowing available. I
Well,
mean,
maybe we could ask
if there's
Melissa, you
grants
could-
available.
Yeah,
Yep.
could invite
Both
Jane
chiefs
and-
back.
yeah,
Yeah.
with those specific questions. I don't remember who made the presentation. We have 2 new chiefs this year compared to last year. So, and we can also resurrect the information. Maybe it was in the packet last year.
Looks like Jennifer might have something to add. She might know something from last year.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the request from last year, and it says that the cost presented is the total cost using state contract pricing for outright purchase of parts 1 and 2. The vendor does also offer a lease program for both the infrastructure replacement and the subscriber unit replacement, which spreads the cost out over 5 years. So just wanted to share that information if that's helpful at all.
Thank you. Lee, you have a comment?
Yeah, it's a tiny comment, but as to, you know, why grants haven't been applied for, or various questions have come up, and people have said, we don't have the internal capacity to do these things. So it's something to think about ongoing.
Or maybe reconsider the, this is the
Well,
opposite for the
No, I
schools.
mean, in terms of, you know, right, in terms of how you describe who you want to hire or what you think you need to do in an ongoing way. If you want people to be imaginative and apply for grants, then that needs to be built into the structure of the department. As I say, this may be nonsense, but just a thought.
All right, so we'll pick that one up again next time, perhaps. Okay, so I believe we have knocked the net $900,000 off this list, yeah? Removed, oh no, but now they're more than that because of this disaster recovery. So Melissa, maybe you can update us as to what our current so to speak, surplus is that we could
Yeah.
think about allocating back to any of these projects or resident projects or pay down debt if that's also an option.
So let's see if, yeah, so I think that what we have right now is in cash capital, assuming that the radio station remains in a borrowing or something else, then we have $5,248,200 of cash capital. And I believe the number, I mean, I could look it up, but I believe the number from before was around 5,700,000. I could,
The new projects line under. You're talking about this,
yeah,
the new projects line?
yeah.
Under expenditure summary is 5,509,000.
So you have about 300,000 surplus.
Yeah, not quite. More like 250, I think.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So let's all just keep that in mind right now and turn to the resident requests.
I have one other project I'd like to discuss.
Yes.
It's under the information technology, and it's the budget software line. Melissa, is that broadly requested, or was that something that you had requested personally?
So I did request it. I did request it in conjunction with the IT department, and I'm going to fight for it, and I'll be overruled, but I'm going to do it. So I worked with Michael in the IT department for this. This is something that an initiative that he had wanted to undertake prior to me coming here, but there wasn't support in the in the finance team before to take on a project like that. My thought on this project is, well, I think that the decisions about how and what should be implemented should be made by the next finance director. While we are reevaluating the way that we look at budgets and we are rethinking how we structure our departments, this process of even the capital planning and or the budget even more so, is very time consuming, the way that we do that and the kind of information that we present to you as the elected officials and as our constituents. And the depth of information that would be helpful to you in making those decisions, like a lot of times we get asked, well, how much does it's easier to represent in the regular budget. But when I say, Melissa's position, there's my salary, which is very easily attainable in the budget. But what is the additional cost attached to my benefits?
Fully loaded. Yeah.
Fully loaded, and all that stuff can come over. It's easy for us to create different scenarios. And as we update information, every single one of our it updates through a system rather than separate side sheets. Like I'm maintaining this separate spreadsheet for you versus the spreadsheet I'm maintaining for the town manager. And then I'm like, are they in alignment? Where's the savings? Oh, I had to update, the debt amount for the school moved by, maybe $50,000, but those small changes matter. So I think that it's a tool that would be a great asset to the next finance director and to the whole finance team, especially if we want to look at, do they have different responsibilities, because we have to rethink how we organize or structure our departments. This is a tool that would allow more time of the staff to do other things. So that's my argument for it, but you can take it off if you like.
Bob, I mean, I have a question about it also. Maybe is something you were getting at? So I just learned that Melissa's leaving. I'm very sorry about that. But good luck. What comes next? But does it make sense to implement this in the coming year? I mean, if there's a new finance director who needs to learn how we do everything currently before training on and figuring out how to use, I mean, will it make sense to do this next year is my question.
So you could do that. And my argument against that is that I had tried to get this before the budget process. And it just wasn't available. You know, there was no funding available for me to do that. And my thought was that it would have made this budget process easier. And so it just, if it's voted this year, it can sit open and unused for a number of years. And when that person is ready to implement it, they'll have it, you know, and maybe there won't be availability of $100,000 next year. You know, there'll be other things. And if they decide, you know what, this is not something that's for me, then they give it back and you can repurpose it next year. So that's, yeah, I mean, I know it's a losing battle, but I'm going to fight.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if it's losing. Nat, Bob,
I would actually wonder if approving this amount and having it in the budget might even help attract the next finance director, that this is something we're committed to, making it more efficient and more professional. And we want to hire someone who is ready to use this, and we have it ready for them.
And I did talk with the software company recently, and I said, you know, I told them, you know, because they're checking in, and I said, well, you know, this is going to be hard, but this is my, you know, this is my pitch. I'm believing in this idea. And I said, if you know anyone who, you know, so there are people in the state of Massachusetts who use this software who might come in and say, yeah, I want, and they might not want the one I would have picked, but they might be the one that they're comfortable with and they have had success with. So, you know, if they have that as an option and it's a tool that was available to them in any of the other communities that have this kind of reporting, that might be a benefit too.
Lee?
I just want to repeat what I said. This would be to enhance the capacity of the town's departments to do their job, and I think it would be a good idea.
Okay. Bob, I don't know if you have another question or a hand still up.
Well, I wanted to just follow up. I do think we should be cognizant of the stress on town staff, and especially going into this coming year. It's going to be a tough year. And I do think that since we appear to have money in the budget, I think we should set this aside, you know, for a software system. It doesn't have to be the one that Melissa particularly liked, but I do think we ought to make it available to the next finance director if they want it. And I do take Melissa's explanation about efficiency and accuracy of the, you know, I do think it's time to move to a system that's accurate and that everybody uses and gives one answer to everybody.
Gives the same answer to everybody. Yes. Yes. Okay, that's fine. Anybody else have a Jennifer?
So in the upcoming years with all the big projects that are going on, and there's going to be a lot of borrowing and a lot of debt, it would be super helpful to have one software that everything's in one central point. So myself as the treasurer and Holly as the comptroller and then the finance director, we're all looking at the same data in the same place. And that way there's no confusion that my information's not matching Holly's and then we're in disagreement, and then anything that gets presented is inaccurate.
Thank you. All right. So everyone is raised any particular project they wanted to discuss? Yeah, we can move to resident requests. Oh, Bob's hand is up.
Yeah. The other issue is, and this is something Kathy brought up, is do we want to set aside $1 million for facilities, or should we cut that back a little bit? And I look at, yes, we have a $10 million looming cost for addressing facility issues, and that will only address urgent issues. So there's a part of me that says if we have the money in this budget, we should put it in. On the other hand, the town hall seems to be the project of choice, and there's 50,000 from last year that wasn't spent. If we get, or 500,000 that wasn't spent, if we give another $1 million, then we got 1.5 million, and then they say they want to go to the CPA funds, and they gave a very impassioned presentation about flexibility, and this would give them something to work with. I just don't know that we need to fund it at that level. So that's something I think we should consider. We should discuss.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
So-
can we stay with this issue, Bridget?
Yeah, that I am. I'm
Okay.
just concurring with Bob and also saying, I feel like we had a long discussion last week where we had come to some consensus around 750,000. So,
Well, I know we
Well, I-
did have a long discussion and that's why I flagged it, but I guess I didn't understand the consensus. So you guys can, yeah.
I would say that I think it was I who proposed 750,000, but I was looking for things, looking for things to cut. And this is at the very top of the list. So I think we can afford it. There is a big backlog. I think we could perhaps relay the message that we'd like you to put this money to work. You're asking for it, please use it. We also had a discussion about the roof, and I was arguing, don't try to fix the roof out of cash capital, over multiple years. So the roof may be important, but do all the other things and get cracking. So I am happy to leave this at $1 million.
Okay.
The needs just grow and grow. Nat?
Yeah, I would concur with what you just said, that I have no doubt that they can find the projects for 1 million. And if we don't keep on investing, that just gets deferred down the line. So it may not be the town hall roof, but there are lots of buildings that need work. And I almost wanted the same thing about roads. Is the 500,000 even enough for the roads? But
It's
I won't open that can of worms.
Never enough, never enough.
It's not actually. You should look at the presentation that Jason Steels gave to I think it was to TSO, and it's pretty scary.
I know. I read the newspaper article about it. But that made me very scared too.
Yeah, I mean, we need a minimum of 3 or 4 million on top of state aid in order to kind of keep the roads the way they are now. If we continue to invest $500,000, $1 million each year, and above what the state gives us, which is about 800,000, the roads are gonna deteriorate over time.
We'll never catch up. Yeah.
Well, we'll never, we'll lose, they have this index. It'll
Right.
go down by 10 points. The average will go down by 10 points over 10 years. So we're going to lose the integrity of many of our roads. And, when they get to a certain point, you got to fix them. So I don't know what we're going to do, but I mean, he was put out the number of, $4 to $5 million a year in order to kind of maintain the roads the way we have them now. let alone let them deteriorate. So
Okay.
I don't know what we're gonna do with it, but that's professional engineer's best estimate of what it will cost.
All right. So as far as this first line, the $1 million for all buildings repair, how many people, use your virtual hands because I can't see everyone. How many people are okay with this amount? And I am. Hala, are you listening? I think Bridget is not.
I'm sorry, I'm in and out. My connection is poor. What is the
Okay.
question?
Yeah, so we've been talking about the $1 million that has been requested by the town for maintenance and repairs of various buildings. And some folks have argued that maybe they don't need that much. And I'm asking who in this group is okay with the $1 million number as opposed to something lower. So are you okay
No.
with $1 million or?
Thank you for that. My only contingency or question would be if we're factoring in the tariffs, which might seem to be actually a reality when it was maybe a possibility. So if there are going to be extra tariffs and stuff is going to be so much more expensive, I would say I'm okay with that $1 million, but also I don't have all the information. So
Right.
yeah, sorry.
No, it's, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen to prices anywhere.
No.
Okay.
For everything, right?
Yes, yes. It looks like a majority are fine with this number, but so we'll just leave it for now. Kathy will be back next week, and if people still have strong feelings, we can talk it over. Nat, do you have another question or just?
Sorry.
Okay, all right. Now let's go to resident requests. Guilford, thank you for commenting on each of them. It seemed like some are basically ineligible, like Butternut Farm, because it's private property. And the Cushman Village sign, no, sorry, the street lighting on some road, Dana Street or somewhere, that's against town policy. I don't know why, but if that's true, then I guess that's not eligible, or the person could appeal to town council for help on that. Yeah.
The street light is not against town policy. It's if you approve the funding for it, then they do need to go to town council to get it approved to have it installed. So it's a
Because they're
two-step process.
Okay, because they're the keeper of the way or something?
Yes. Plus, we can't add new street lights without the town council approval.
Oh, okay. All right. Bridget looks surprised about that one. Well, who would like to jump in? Are
So
there
Bridget,
some seem that they're really going to be much more costly than the $50,000, but maybe some we could recommend to DPW that they consider including those projects in their priorities. Did I hear that Bridget had something to say? I don't see any hands.
no, I was just gonna share with Bridget that at the last town council meeting that I believe you were at, remember the first topic of business was to approve a street light, I believe, that we did before all the stuff, all the information from the schools.
Oh, okay.
It was a telephone pole, actually, an electric pole.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You do those every meeting.
Well,
I miss that in the excitement, but
Yeah.
well,
but yeah, with all
gonna-
you have to do, it makes me wonder.
the TSO is going to bring up whether we want to try to establish a commission to look at stuff like that. So
Well, let me ask about the street light. If it has to be approved by council, assuming it can even be paid for, does it first need to go to one of the committees, or would it get referred? Should we tell this applicant, you should go speak to CRC first and see what they think? Or how would you suggest they proceed if we can't just say, sure, no problem.
Um, I, I think they need to bring the request to the council. And then, oh, well, they've sort of brought the request forward. So, you know, we have the request. I think that my personal feeling is, since we appear to have some room in the budget, I think we should try to deal with these, the ones we can deal with. I know the one on Station Road, Guilford, is way too expensive. That's we can't possibly do that. But I mean, there were a couple of there was a crosswalk by the Wildwood Cemetery, and there was one speed
Speed monitor. No, that
monitor, yeah. And you know, I do think, you know, if we do if people go to the trouble of requesting capital projects, we should at least discuss them at a minimum, but we should take them seriously, and we should see whether they're actually, you know, these sound like, Guilford, from your review of these, many of these seemed like reasonable requests, and you know that it's something that you could support. So I think anything that the DPW thinks is reasonable, I think we should go ahead with.
So
Go ahead, Guilford.
So the only thing is how to prioritize it. So do all these things jump ahead of things that are going on now and in the planning process? So how do you prioritize it? So the question would be, yes, they're good. Some of these are good projects, but that's my only thing, is how to prioritize them. The traffic calming ones, the DPW has already got some spots we want to use some of the money in if we get it. So then the question would be, do we put some of these into that, and just, if you increase it to $100,000, that would probably cover all the requests that are basically traffic calming. The station road request, I met with them today, and they're probably gonna request, instead of going the whole project, because they now know it's a pretty big project, that they might want to ask for some traffic calming, some driver feedback signs, and some other signs that could come out of the traffic calming account as well. This Tam Brook project.
Can we hold on, because you were talking about traffic calming? Can you just, so we're totally clear, you said if you had $100,000 instead of the 50, I guess, you could address these traffic calming requests. Well, can we just be very specific about which those are? That means the speed monitor for Southeast Street?
Yes.
Is that one? Okay. Does that include the crosswalk, the Wildwood across Strong Street?
No.
Okay. Does it includes, well, somebody wanted speed bumps on Station Road, but we're told that's a main road and you don't want to.
We wouldn't recommend it, but the council overruled us and said, yes, do it. It would be done. But that is installing the speed bumps would be a change to the public way, and would eventually go to the town council for final approval too. So
I see. What else is?
So
there's nothing else. There's nothing else that's traffic calming, I don't think.
Well, I'll go down the list I have.
Culverts, yeah, you said that. Go ahead.
So number 2, that's the one on Southeast Street. They want a driver feedback sign. That's traffic calming. Number 3 is traffic calming, but I think the JCPC approved money last year for this one. So I would skip that one.
I think they want a second sign, Guilford. I think they did we put a sign up, didn't we? On
We did, but there is an account in the capital. It's in my capital. It's I think it's $60,000, and it says, and I think it's specifically for this request that was made last year.
Okay.
Yeah, Sarah pointed that out to me, and I updated the sheet. I had sent out all the requests that had came in calendar 24, but which includes some February requests. So I had 2 duplicate requests, but one of them I left on the sheet because Guilford had noted one of the traffic calming by the same person who had requested them again this year. So what I did is those first 2 on the list are last year's. So, and he'd made a comment about one of them. And when you say it's a duplicate, that it
Yes.
was also a traffic calming request. So
Yeah,
the one
so-
he's talking about here is a duplicate. He's correct.
can
And
we
then
be
there's another
specific?
one where there was a second request for a similar project.
This is being too vague. I'm sorry. We had different, like a printed
So
out.
column,
Which-
I'll start at the top again.
What's the first one you're looking at? Because it may be
I'm looking
different
at
from what
line number 2.
I've seen multiple versions. What's the name of the project, please?
This
Is it the
is
Steely
this is
Street?
ID number 21762.
I don't even have, I don't,
That's
Okay.
the one you told me was a duplicate, Sarah. He's saying
that's
it's a duplicate, just like you told me.
right.
Yeah.
So that's the Southeast Street. They want a driver feedback sign, and it's on the list twice.
Okay.
So that could be traffic calming. The next one is dynamic school zone signs, which is from Jeremy Anderson. Maybe I'll use people's names.
because that wasn't on the list that we first printed out. This is why I thought they were left over from last year.
Jeremy, that one is left over from last year. There is an account for that, so you can skip that one.
Right. So what's the first, next one?
Number 3 is from Peter Jacoby.
Yeah.
They want to upgrade the culvert on Fearing Street. And this is a really big project unless I can convince the oh wait. No, Jacoby wants
Sealy,
good. That's good.
Sealy Street.
Jacoby wants sidewalks on Sealy Street. We actually have a project going on Sealy Street, so we would not recommend this one this time because we're about to rip up a huge section of Sealy Street in a year or so. And then when we put everything back, we can put the sidewalks in at that time, and we just put it into the bigger project.
So it will be done, but we don't have to advocate for it. Is that what you're saying? It's like you're already going to do it. He just didn't know.
We can, yeah, we're already going to kind of put it in, and it's over $50,000. So
Yeah.
So it will be included in a project already underway.
yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
The next one is the sign for Cushman Village. That's not really us. We're happy to install it if people make the sign, but I think they want something a little more special than just a street sign. So that's not us. The next one down is that's the duplicate from the first one. That's the Southeast Street sign.
So the last year's request for this was approved? Do I understand?
No, it was
that?
not.
Oh, it was not approved. I thought you said it was in the budget and I thought maybe it just hadn't been installed yet. So
No.
it was not, okay.
But this could be traffic calming. This would be something that's as simple as traffic calming.
Yeah.
The next one down is Wildwood crosswalks. That number is valid. We actually talked to them. We worked out that number with them. So that is a valid number. It would take up half if you gave us $100,000 for traffic calming, that would take up half of it. So it would be if you want to fund that as well. We would ask for you to fund it separately.
Right.
And it would end up going to town council as well because we're adding a crosswalk and we're required to get town council approval for adding crosswalks. The next one down is Tan Brook. This is a huge project if we actually replace the culverts. So it's not even doable the way it's set up. If you wanted to fund some survey work and planning work, we could do that and move the project along a little bit. Personally, I think the solution to the problem is take the culverts out and make the road a dead end on each side, and you can name one side north Fearing and one south Fearing, and just don't let them cross.
Oh,
But
I see. I thought, how does this solve the problem? You just have flooding on both sides. So you're saying interrupt the road.
yeah, just get rid of the road and the culvert, and you won't have the backup there.
Sounds like traffic calming too then.
Oh, the neighborhoods would be livid because then they'd have to cut through.
But
Okay, yeah,
the state requirements, there's two state requirements here that are going to make this very expensive. One is the wetland rules, which say you have to have, I wrote it in there. I can't.
yeah.
Stream. You have to meet the stream flow crossing standards. That's very expensive. And then the next one is it will be more than 12 feet long. So you would have to get Mass DOT approval and go through the Chapter 85, Section 35 requirements for getting it approved, which means you have to design it to Mass DOT standards. It'll be the engineering alone will probably be over $200,000
Oh my
to design that.
Well, but I wonder if you have anything to suggest about the problem that exists according to this applicant, that residents' properties being damaged when the culvert fails and the brook is like, I assume it's his property and he doesn't want it flooded or eroded. So is there something else can the culvert be cleaned out?
Well, the culvert's very clean. It flushes itself out very well because the water rips through there pretty quick.
It's just inadequate?
The size is too small for the storms we're having and the so forth. So, I mean, taking it out would be the quickest and easiest and cheapest solution.
Okay.
But
yeah.
It's the whole project. The project the way he's proposing, it's not 50,000. It's quite more expensive.
Okay. All right. Please continue if you have any more comments.
Speed bumps on Station Road. Yes, that it'll be more than $10,000. It'll probably be in the 25 to 30,000 range for those speed bumps. So that's something that's doable, but the DPW would not support it because of the type of road it is.
I mean, you do it if you were forced to, but it's not something you would recommend.
Well, I mean, we're not forced to. We make our recommendation like everybody makes a recommendation. It's up to the people who maintain the road or the keepers of the way to make that decision.
Right. But
and there's other factors besides what we think. Butternut Farm is not a public works thing.
Yeah.
Station Road's a major project to put a sidewalk in. We're looking at $750 to $1 million to do that. So the residents may come back and request that get changed to being a driver feedback sign to start with. And they also then may request that maybe $40,000 to $50,000 be set aside to survey the project area so that it can be examined more closely and possible plans developed. But it's totally not fundable at this time for that amount.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is the cyclist protection on Southeast Street. That is doable. It'll be more than $2,000 just for the stenciling and labeling on the roads and putting the signs up. And if that's decided that we want to go forward with that more, we would just have to work on it and develop a plan and come up with a better number. But $2,000 won't do just the infrastructure that's needed before you start doing the program and the education part.
Yeah. Can I ask Melissa, is the programmatic parts of that request even eligible for capital funds to have a public education campaign? I mean, I wouldn't think so. Painting on the roads could be, the shared lane markings and stuff like that.
I wouldn't think so, but I don't.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't seem like a capital. It doesn't end up giving you an asset other than educated people, maybe.
Yeah.
But, all right. Last one. Oh, we talked about the lighting. So the
Yes.
request
And the request is, I mean, to put a street light in is about $2,000 right now. So there's three things that make up that price. That you got to buy the fixture, you have to buy the arm that holds the fixture, and then Eversource charges us to make the pole ready. So that's usually around $1,000 a pole, depending on where you are. It can be a little less, but if they have to replace the pole, it's usually $1,000 to replace the pole and make the connections for the street light.
Okay, all right. So are there any of these that you would consider straightforward to implement with the funding you've already requested, or does even the simplest one require additional funds? I think the simplest one is the speed monitor, maybe for
The driver feedback signs we could fund. You could fund out of the traffic calming one. That's really what that was put there for, was to fund these requests that come for people who want driver feedback signs or rectangular rapid flashing beacons at crosswalks or more signage at crosswalks. That's kind of why we developed that request. And that's kind of why it was 100,000. We're getting a lot of requests for these. There's a lot coming in.
Mhm.
So most of those could probably be funded through that. But there are other ones ahead of these requests. So then there has to be, and there really isn't a methodology for who would go first.
So, Guilford, could you say like well, like Guilford said, he had originally requested 100, and then what we did is we staggered the 100 between the two different types of new requests there that had been coming out of roads, so that they could concentrate the road money on actually repairing the roads instead of the roadway sort of thing. So, but if you had your priority list that you've already, sort of gone over with requests that have come directly to you, or things that you and your staff have noticed of like, oh, this is an issue or whatever, and then we were to do all of these together, would that fit in 100,000? Or with the exception of the Wildwood one, which is its own little project, or how much would it take to do your priority list that you have now and the ones on this list?
If we were told to do all this list and the ones we have to do, would be 100,000 at least.
Okay. And then plus an extra 50 for the Wildwood one, right? That's
Which
a
I think is
separate-
already approved.
Oh, okay.
That
What
was
do you mean?
approved last year.
Okay.
It was? I don't remember that.
I have an
But-
account that says, I have an account that's kind of identified for that.
Oh,
So let me first
The
declare my
crosswalk one, Guilford?
Hold on, let me open it up.
while he's doing that, Nat, what do you
Oh,
want?
I have a conflict of interest because I'm a board member at Wildwood Cemetery, but that also gives me information that is a new request this year.
Yeah, I think it's new.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it before.
The Wildwood one is new.
Oh, I thought that's what you said.
Oh,
was-
you were talking about the 50,000 one? Yes, we need 50,000 for the Wildwood one. Sorry.
So in addition to the 100,000 for your list that you already have, all the other traffic calming ones on this list, and then another 50,000 to do the Wildwood one. If we were to do it all, that's what it would take. And assuming you have the time and energy to do
The assumption is I don't have that part. That's pretty straightforward.
it.
Then maybe we should just say no.
Well, I mean, I take what you said, Guilford, about the prioritization issue. It's a these are squeaky wheels, and we don't want to just give squeaky wheels higher priority than other needs of the town. So we do have to think about this a little bit, and think about how to balance these. I mean, maybe the way to do it is to put some money aside, and then you can work it in, Guilford, whenever it makes sense from your perspective to do it. just a thought.
I'm completely
Yeah.
okay with that. I would definitely like to have a methodology for sorting these out.
Yes. Okay, I don't think we need to keep Guilford anymore. Is that all right with folks? We let him go and we can figure out, well, now, now what do we got to do? All right, hearing no objections, Guilford, thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Good night.
All right, good night. Okay, we have half an hour. I'm going to have to leave promptly at 6. So to remind everybody, we concluded that we have about $250,000 to add to funding for next capital for 2026. So we could add it to the roads. We've heard the roads never have enough money. We could add some to DPW for some of these projects. We could, I don't know, pay down. I don't know if Melissa thinks it's a good idea to pay down debt, or it would not be enough to be worthwhile use of the funds, or that's really, we're supposed to be spending it on things, not on debt. So would anybody like to propose then a way to use the $250,000? And this, remember, we've already given the 6th grade move $100K.
I would suggest that we don't use it, that we actually say, this is what we propose allocating. I think that if we're searching and looking, there's need in all different places, but it's hard to come up with a fair process for it, especially that, then we're starting to talk outside requests and so forth. And also that makes it much easier if the 10.5 goes to 10%, then it's not a process of cutting. Things are already fairly close. I think then we're only another 90,000 off.
And I will say to Sarah's suggestion, we have estimated in some pay downs for some of the debt that we know will be coming on from last year's projects and the year before. And we could certainly be more aggressive with those pay downs. And we aren't going to actually have our numbers for debt for another couple of weeks. So there's another set of borrowing that we are, Jen and I are working on. So, if there's a little bit of flexibility there, that way we could be more aggressive in paying off other projects that have been funded in the past. We could certainly get to that 10.5%, and maybe save some money for future projects by being more aggressive in paying back debt.
Okay. Bob.
Yeah, I putting another $250,000 into the roads, I hate to say it won't make any difference. I'd rather see us pay down debt and have that money have more debt availability going forward, because we're sure going to need it.
Nat?
Just on the traffic calming and the citizen requests, if we could, without specifically saying which ones ought to be prioritized, if we can respond to the requests by adding some more money to traffic calming, that would be one way we can respond. And then Guilford can use his DPW's good judgment as to what to prioritize. But to me, that seems better than kind of not responding at all to the citizen requests.
So would you propose a certain amount?
50,000.
An additional 50,000.
Right.
All right. So, and I assume you don't, since you told us you're conflicted, but on the other, well, that you don't mean for the Wildwood sidewalk or this.
It's not about any particular project. It's so that DPW has more funds, they can choose what the priorities are, I guess.
Okay. I wonder then what we tell, like we tell the residents, y'all go fight for your project in Guilford's office. I mean, it's like we're not recommending any specific one of your projects. There are a lot of traffic calming related requests, so we're just gonna let Guilford decide. Is that Lee?
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember from a previous meeting that an idea was broached to give the departments bigger buckets and let them decide how to use the funds. And if I'm understanding correctly what Nat is saying, I'm in favor of that.
Bob, is your hand up again?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think Nat's suggestion is worthwhile. I think we should maybe couch it in terms of, you know, we've increased the budget for the town to spend, you know, money on traffic calming, but the town has priorities, and you know, it's really up to DPW working with the town manager to set the priorities. It's not up to this committee, or even, I don't even think it's the council's purview to do that. I think it's the town manager is the one who would set priorities for these kinds of projects.
Okay.
I mean, we fund things, but we don't really direct. You know, we give funding to DPW every year, but we don't tell them exactly how to spend it. I mean, the town manager works with DPW to figure out how to spend it.
And the request for the facilities this year is also just here's a pool of money.
Right.
Address your priorities.
Yep.
So if we add $50,000 to traffic calming, then that leaves 200,000. We could decide not to decide and say this could either be used to pay down debt, or if town council reduces the cash capital rate, I forget what you call it, to 10%, you know, here's a big chunk of that. Melissa, do you remember you said it was 300 or something would need to come off?
I think it's 340.
Yeah, it's about
So-
350, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, and I realize we're going to at our next meeting talk more about the police and fire, the whole radio thing that Bridget wanted to talk about. But for now, if we give DPW 50,000 more, then we have 200,000. So do we also want to figure out what we would cut? What would be $150,000 worth of cuts if that capital levy goes down? You say we save $200,000, you know, don't pay down debt. Does anyone want to suggest what would be the first thing we cut? Could take it off the facilities, you know, the maintenance.
Yeah, that's my order, is looking at the two things we'll talk about next time, and then facilities. I'd love to see the person in Melissa's position be extra agile.
Thank you.
What? So I missed something. What do you want? I know
That the
we're talking about-
person who takes Melissa's spot, you know, that they can be really agile, because, you know, you can only use the money well if you can track it well.
Oh, I didn't think we were at this point contemplating removing that
Good.
request. I didn't see any support for that. Bob?
Yeah, I think we should just make our recommendation to the town manager. You know, at whatever it is. I think if we have a surplus, at 10.5%, we should say this is not going to 10.5%. You could, spend the money on other things or pay down debt or put it onto roads or whatever. But I don't think, I think the whole issue of 10% versus 10.5%, I don't think that the council has really decided on that. So I don't think we should be worrying too much about that number. And let the council and the town manager work that out. This is a recommendation to the town manager. He's going to take it and he could add to it in his capital plan. I mean, this is just a recommendation. So I think we should just make our best recommendation. And if we have $200,000, we could, I think what Sarah suggested, we can identify 2 or 3 or 4 different ways that money can be used. We could fund some other projects, or we could pay down debt, or we could, put it into roads, etc. So.
Okay. All right. Any other comments on this issue? So I think then, assuming that we were leaving the fire radio business in, which is borrowing anyway, we've added 50,000 for traffic calming. We've added 100 for the 6th grade move, and we'll have a balance of approximately $200,000. And we will say, here's some ideas.
Right.
Okay, does that sound like? Okay, all right, so that's good for now. What I gather we're also supposed to maybe tweak the out years and try to make them balance, or at least that's how Kathy talks about it. And for the life of me, we don't know how we would do that.
I don't see that we need to balance the out years. I don't think we can do it, number one. And number two, I've said this before, but once you get past the year you're actually funding, it's just speculation. And there isn't, you shouldn't spend too much time. I mean, we should look at it. We should think about it. I mean, there's some big projects like Puffer's Pond is a big project. When you look at it, we should, maybe, talk to Dave Zomack a bit more about that. What grants are available, how much are we actually going to have to spend? We don't know. I understand there's some uncertainty now until you put divers in the water and take a look at things, but that's a huge project. And so that's something that we're going to have to think about, whether we can support that or not, given where we're going to be with other budget issues. So
I also will be interested to know in what sort of flexibility we have, because there are laws regarding dams, and I don't know what aspects of this whole project we might not have a choice about. Maybe we wouldn't improve the beaches, we wouldn't do anything, but there might be some expensive piece will be obliged to do.
Understood.
Yeah. Anybody else, especially those who've been through this process before, have a comment on the out years? Does our report simply point out some of these issues that will need to be decided or investigated and maybe reconsidered? Because there's definitely a lot of numbers in the out years, a lot more than in this year's column, and maybe that's the way it always is. But I mean, just like Crocker Farm, Bridget and I can take this back to the committee. Crocker Farm is slated to have millions of dollars of work. It's all borrowing, but still we're going to be borrowing millions and millions of dollars by then. So again, we can take that back and ask. We have a new facilities director.
Yeah.
and ask, so please have a look and be ready to maybe modify this next February or, yeah.
Right.
Anybody else? Lee?
Yeah, I want to support Bob Heckner in saying, you can't know what the outlying years are actually going to show up. And I think maybe in the past, there's been a desire to make the charts look neat, to make them look as though they were balanced. And so, yeah, I believe that we need to understand that there's a lot of uncertainty and we just need to go forward and do the best we can.
Anybody else want to say anything about the out years or? Yeah, I can see why the new financial software will be useful. It's going to be a tremendous amount of borrowing.
I'm sure Melissa doesn't want to put too much effort into the out years at this point either.
Oh, it's stuff that miracle will happen,
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll hire a grant writer and the federal government will give us
Oh,
some.
yeah, the federal government will have lots of money.
Yeah, all right, the state. Yeah, it's going to be tough. Okay, then unless there's something else anybody wants to talk about, I will just move to public comment. Anybody? I don't see anything, so I will, all right, say now we have 3 people in the audience. If any of you would like to make a comment, please put your hand up. No hands are going up, so there is no public comment. So what else? I have no matters not anticipated. Did anyone else have any matters not anticipated? All right, then I'll just remind you that our next meeting is a week from Friday. I forget the time, maybe it's, I don't know if it's 2 or 4, but we already have the,
I think it's 2.
I think it's been posted, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Melissa, if you can, Kathy gave me a draft of the report she's been working on. I'm happy to do more on it. It would help me if you can send the updated.
Yeah, I'll send you this
table.
chart.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll try and get the bottom to balance so that, it shows exactly the surplus that we think you have at this time and
right.
that kind of
And
stuff.
you will invite the police and fire chiefs.
To Friday's meeting.
Right.
Not this Friday, next Friday, right?
Right.
Yeah, and there's no meeting this Friday.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no,
For
I'm just
me.
saying it's more than a week away is
Yeah,
what
the
I'm getting
11th.
at.
Yeah.
Friday of
11th.
next week, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got the questions that we were asking is like,
Mhm.
it was a lease versus buying, what the costs, how the costs have changed. And what was the other one?
And how how come we're so much more than
Why are we spending so much?
our
jurisdictions
neighboring
around us are not?
communities, right?
Right,
Like what's
and-
different about our system?
Right, and can they apply or do they apply for grants? Are there grants for this purpose? So
Mhm.
that would be great, and then we'll make a decision. All right, then I think we are done. A
Mhm.
little bit early. So, oh, Lee has her hand up. Lee?
I
You're
want to say thank you, Sarah, for
Oh.
chairing this meeting. And
Yeah.
thank you, Melissa, for being the finance director. And I'm sorry that you're leaving.
Yes, yes, me too.
We're all sorry to see her go.
All right, well, in that case, Melissa, sorry, were you about to say something?
Nope. I'm all
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Melissa
right.
and Jennifer, for attending, and everybody for your time, and we'll see you next week. I guess, who wants to adjourn at 5:47? I see
Yes.
Lee's hand is still up, so we are adjourned.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.